My relatives called me a divorced mom with a kid, the black sheep of the family. At the company party, my stepfather barked, "Get lost, you're worthless," and pushed me out the door. I quietly replied, "Fine," and didn't object. But they had no idea they were living off my $50 million. The next day, when I moved to my villa in the Hamptons. My name is Rebecca, and I'm sitting here in my new kitchen overlooking the Pacific Ocean, watching my 8-year-old son Tyler build sandcastles on our private beach. 6 months ago, I was the family disappointment. Today, well, everything's different. But let me tell you how we got here. Because this story isn't what you think it is. I've always been the odd one out in the Harrison family. While my sister Amanda married her college sweetheart and moved to the suburbs, I fell for Danny, a musician who played gigs at dive bars and had more dreams than dollars. When Tyler was born, my stepfather Frank made it clear what he thought of my choices. "Rebecca's always been the rebel," he'd tell anyone who'd listen. "Some people just can't make smart decisions." Frank Harrison wasn't my biological father. He married my mom when I was 14, after my real dad died in a car accident. Frank owned a successful plumbing business and never let us forget it. He provided for us, sure, but everything came with a price, constant reminders of his generosity and our dependence on him. When Danny and I divorced after 3 years of struggling to make ends meet, Frank's reaction was predictable. "I told you that boy was no good," he said, not even trying to hide his satisfaction. "Now you're stuck with a kid and no husband. Hope you learned your lesson." What nobody knew was that during those 3 struggling years, I'd been quietly building something. While Danny was at his gigs and Tyler was sleeping, I'd been working on a revolutionary water filtration system. Growing up, we'd always had issues with our well water, and I'd become obsessed with finding a better solution. I'd studied chemistry in college before dropping out to get married, and I never stopped experimenting. The breakthrough came when Tyler was 5. I developed a compact filtration unit that could purify water faster and more effectively than anything on the market. I filed for patents, started a small company called AquaPure Solutions, and began manufacturing in my garage. Danny thought it was a waste of time and money. "Rebecca, you're not an engineer," he'd say. "Leave the inventing to people who actually know what they're doing." But I knew I was onto something big. The unit worked perfectly, and early tests showed it could revolutionize water treatment for developing countries. I just needed funding to scale up production. That's when everything fell apart with Danny. He'd found someone else, a backup singer from one of his bands. The divorce was messy, and he fought for everything, including half of my little water project. My lawyer advised that keeping the company's potential value quiet until the papers were finalized. Smart move. Because 3 weeks after our divorce was final, UNICEF contacted me. They'd heard about my filtration system through a contact at the patent office. Within 6 months, I had contracts worth $30 million. Within a year, governments and NGOs worldwide were licensing my technology. But my family still thought I was barely scraping by, working part-time at a local lab while raising Tyler alone. I let them believe it because it was easier. Frank's ego couldn't handle successful women. He'd made that clear when Amanda got promoted to regional manager at her company. "Women these days think they can do everything," he'd grumbled. "But when push comes to shove, they still need a man to take care of them." So I drove my old Toyota, lived in a modest apartment, and let Frank lecture me about responsibility while secretly funding half the family's expenses. When Mom needed a new roof, I anonymously paid the contractor. When Amanda's husband lost his job, I made sure Frank's business got several lucrative contracts that helped him loan them money. When Frank's own business hit a rough patch during the recession, I bought up his debts through a shell company and forgave them. But the hardest part was watching how they treated Tyler. At family gatherings, Amanda's kids got expensive toys, while Tyler got dollar store gifts. They'd talk about piano lessons and summer camps for their children, while suggesting I look into assistance programs for single mothers. Tyler would come home asking why Grandpa Frank didn't think he was as smart as his cousins. I started avoiding family events. It hurt too much to watch my brilliant, sensitive boy being treated like a charity case. But Frank's business was celebrating its 25th anniversary, and Mom begged me to come to the party. "Rebecca, please," she said during one of her weekly check-in calls. "Frank specifically wants you there. He's been talking about family unity, about bringing everyone together. I think he's really trying to change." Against my better judgment, I agreed. Maybe it was time to give Frank another chance. Maybe age was softening him. So I bought Tyler a new suit and myself a modest dress, and we showed up at the country club Frank had rented for the occasion. The moment we walked in, I felt the familiar weight of judgment. Frank was holding court near the bar, surrounded by his business partners and their wives. He was wearing his most expensive suit and that gold watch he'd bought to celebrate his biggest contract, the one I'd secretly arranged for him 2 years earlier. Amanda rushed over immediately, her smile bright but her eyes calculating. "Rebecca, you made it. Tyler, don't you look handsome?" But even as she hugged us, I could feel her taking inventory. My off-the-rack dress, Tyler's shoes from Target, the fact that we'd arrived in my 12-year-old Toyota instead of taking a rideshare. The first hour was tolerable. I made small talk with relatives I barely knew, ate overpriced appetizers, and tried to keep Tyler entertained. He was getting restless, asking when we could leave, when Frank approached us with several of his friends in tow. "Gentlemen, I want you to meet my stepdaughter, Rebecca," he announced, his voice carrying across the room. "She's our family's little reminder that not everyone can be successful in business." His friends laughed politely, but I could see the discomfort in their eyes. Tyler pressed closer to my side, and I felt his small hand slip into mine. "Frank," I said quietly, "maybe we could talk privately." "No need to be embarrassed, Rebecca," he continued, clearly enjoying himself. "We all make mistakes. The important thing is learning from them. That's why I keep telling you. Find yourself a good man with a stable job. Tyler needs a father figure, and you need someone to take care of you properly." One of his friends shifted uncomfortably. "Frank, maybe we should—" No, it's fine." Frank waved him off. "Rebecca knows I only want what's best for her. Don't you, sweetheart?" The condescension in his voice was unbearable, but it was Tyler's expression that broke my heart. My 8-year-old son was looking up at me with confusion and hurt, trying to understand why Grandpa Frank was talking about us like we were broken things that needed fixing. The conversation around us had quieted, and I could feel eyes turning our way. Frank was in his element, the successful businessman dispensing wisdom to his disappointing stepdaughter in front of his peers. But something inside me had shifted. Maybe it was seeing Tyler's face, or maybe I was just tired of pretending to be small. "Actually, Frank," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, "I think Tyler and I are doing just fine on our own." Frank's smile faltered slightly. He wasn't used to me pushing back. "Rebecca, there's no shame in admitting you need help. Everyone here understands that single motherhood is challenging." "You're absolutely right," I said, and I saw surprise flicker across his face. "Single motherhood is challenging, but not for the reasons you think." The group around us was definitely listening now. I could see Amanda watching from across the room, her expression worried. Mom was standing near the dessert table, frozen with a plate in her hands. The challenge isn't providing for Tyler, I continued. We're not struggling financially, Frank. We never have been. Frank laughed, but it sounded forced. Rebecca, come on. You work part-time at a lab. You drive a car older than Tyler. Don't try to pretend. I'm not pretending anything. I own that lab, Frank, along with the building it's in and 2 others downtown. The silence that followed was deafening. Frank's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and something that looked like anger. That's ridiculous, he said finally. If you had money, you wouldn't be living in that apartment, driving that car. Living modestly was a choice, I said. Just like working at the lab instead of in my main office was a choice. I wanted Tyler to have a normal childhood, not one where people treated him differently because of money. One of Frank's friends cleared his throat. I think I'll go get another drink, he muttered, clearly desperate to escape the increasingly awkward situation. But Frank wasn't backing down. Rebecca, I don't know what game you're playing, but it's not funny. Stop embarrassing yourself. I'm not playing a game, Frank. I'm telling you the truth. My company, Aqua Pure Solutions, is worth approximately $78 million. I personally hold patents on water filtration technology that's being used in 37 countries. Last month alone, my licensing fees were more than your business makes in a year. Frank's face had gone pale, but his voice was getting louder. That's impossible. I would have known. Your mother would have told me. Mom doesn't know because I never told her. Just like I never told her that I'm the one who's been anonymously paying for half the things you've been taking credit for over the past 3 years. I could see Mom moving toward us now, her face filled with confusion and growing alarm. You're lying, Frank said. But there was less conviction in his voice now. Am I? Do you want me to call the contractor who fixed Mom's roof and ask him who really paid that bill? Or maybe we should discuss that loan you supposedly got from the bank when your business was struggling during the recession? Frank's eyes widened, and I knew I'd hit home. That wasn't a bank loan, Frank. That was me buying your debt and forgiving it. $3.2 million gone. You're welcome. The circle of people around us had grown, drawn by the increasing tension. Amanda had finally made her way over, her face a mask of shock and confusion. Rebecca, what are you talking about? Mom's voice was shaky as she approached. What debt? What roof? I'm talking about the fact that while Frank has been lecturing me about responsibility and failure for the past 3 years, I've been quietly keeping this family financially stable. Frank was shaking now, whether from anger or shock, I couldn't tell. You're making this up, all of it. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. Would you like to see my account balance, Frank? Or maybe we could call my lawyer and have him explain how shell companies work? Rebecca, stop, Mom pleaded. I don't understand what's happening. What's happening, Mom, is that I'm tired of being treated like the family failure when I've been the family's biggest success story. I'm tired of watching Tyler get treated like a charity case when his college fund already has enough money to send him to Harvard twice over. Tyler tugged on my hand. Mommy, what's a charity case? I knelt down to his level, suddenly aware that this conversation was happening in front of my son. It's when people think you need their help when you really don't, buddy. But why would they think that? Because sometimes grown-ups make assumptions instead of asking questions. When I stood back up, Frank was staring at me with an expression I'd never seen before. If this is true, he said slowly, if you really have all this money, Then why? Why did I let you treat me like garbage? Why did I pretend to struggle? Why didn't I tell you to shut up every time you lectured me about my life choices? He nodded. Because I hoped that someday you'd love and respect me for who I am, not what I have. Because I thought if I could just prove myself worthy in your eyes, maybe you'd finally accept Tyler and me as real members of this family. Frank's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. But you know what I realized tonight? I continued. I don't need your approval anymore. Tyler doesn't need to grow up watching his mother get diminished by someone who's supposed to love her. We deserve better than that. I took Tyler's hand. Come on, buddy. Let's go home. Wait, Frank said, his voice barely above a whisper. Rebecca, wait. If what you're saying is true, then we need to talk about this. No, Frank, we really don't. You've made it very clear how you feel about me and Tyler. The only thing that changed is your perception of our bank account. That's not. It is exactly that. Goodbye, Frank. As Tyler and I walked toward the exit, I could hear the murmur of shocked conversations starting behind us. By tomorrow, everyone would know that Frank Harrison's failure of a stepdaughter was actually wealthier than he'd ever dreamed of being. Mommy, Tyler said as we got in the car, are we really rich like you told Grandpa Frank? I looked at my son's serious face in the rearview mirror. Yes, buddy, we are. Why didn't you tell me? Because being rich isn't the most important thing about us. Being kind and smart and caring about other people, that's what matters. But now Grandpa Frank knows? Yes, now he knows. Will he be nicer to us now? The question broke my heart because it was exactly what I'd been wondering myself. I don't know, Tyler. What do you think? He was quiet for a moment, thinking. I think if someone is only nice to you because you have money, they're not really nice at all. 8 years old, and he already understood what it had taken me 32 years to figure out. The next morning, I woke up in our modest apartment and made a decision that had been brewing for months. I called my assistant, Maria, and told her to clear my schedule for the week. Then I called my real estate agent. Jennifer, it's Rebecca. Remember that house in Malibu we looked at last month? The one with the private beach? Of course. Are you ready to make an offer? I'm ready to pay cash. Full asking price. How quickly can we close? By afternoon, I owned a $4 million beachfront home. By evening, I'd hired movers for the weekend. It was time to stop hiding. Tyler was thrilled when I told him. He'd been asking for years why we couldn't live near the ocean like his friend Jake from school. Now he could have his own piece of beach, his own room with windows overlooking the Pacific, his own space to just be a kid, without worrying about disturbing the neighbors below us. My phone had been ringing all day. Mom called 6 times. Amanda called 4 times. Even my Aunt Patricia called, which was strange since we only talked at Christmas. But I wasn't ready to deal with any of them yet. I needed time to process what had happened, to figure out what came next. The movers arrived Saturday morning, and Tyler supervised with the seriousness of a general commanding troops. Be careful with that box, he told one of them. That has my mom's important water machine parts in it. I smiled, watching him. Tyler had always known about my work, had grown up seeing me tinker with prototypes and take calls from clients overseas. To him, his mom was an inventor, a scientist, someone who solved problems. He didn't understand why that impressed some people and threatened others. The new house was everything I'd dreamed of giving him. 6 bedrooms, a home office for me, a workshop where I could continue developing new filtration technologies, and that incredible view. As we unpacked, Tyler kept running from room to room, unable to believe it was all ours. "Mom, can I really have friends over anytime I want?" "Of course. And we don't have to worry about being too loud?" "Not anymore." "And I can have a dog?" I laughed. "Let's get settled first, then we'll talk about a dog." That evening, as Tyler splashed in our private pool, my phone rang again. This time it was Frank. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello, Frank." "Rebecca." His voice sounded different, smaller somehow. "I've been trying to reach you." "I know. I wasn't ready to talk." "I need to know if what you said last night was true, all of it." "It was true." A long pause. "Jesus, Rebecca. $78 million? Closer to 85 now, actually. We landed a major contract with the Australian government this morning." Another pause. "I don't understand how this happened. How you did this." "The same way anyone builds a business, Frank. Hard work, good ideas, and a little luck." "But why didn't you tell us? Why did you let us think you were struggling?" I watched Tyler doing cannonballs into the pool, his laughter echoing off the water. "Because I wanted to see if you could love me without conditions. I wanted to know if my success mattered more to you than my happiness." "That's not fair, Rebecca. You lied to us." "I did. But Frank, every time I accomplished something real, you found a way to diminish it. My college graduation, my first job, my marriage to Danny. You made everything about what was wrong with my choices instead of celebrating what was right about them." "I was trying to protect you." "No, you were trying to control me. There's a difference." Frank was quiet for so long, I thought he'd hung up. Finally, he spoke again. "The money I borrowed during the recession, you really paid that off?" "Yes." "And your mother's roof?" "Yes." "Amanda's husband's debts when he lost his job?" "I arranged the contracts that let you help them, yes." "Why? Why would you do all that if you thought we didn't appreciate you?" "Because that's what family does, Frank. They take care of each other, even when it's not appreciated, even when it's not reciprocated." I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. "Rebecca, I owe you an apology, a big one." "Yes, you do. But more than that, you owe Tyler an apology. You owe him an explanation for why his grandfather treated him like he was worth less than his cousins." "You're right. God, you're right. That little boy, he must think I don't love him. He asked me once why you don't like us very much. I told him that sometimes adults have trouble showing love. But Frank, a child shouldn't have to wonder if their grandfather loves them." Tyler had climbed out of the pool and was wrapping himself in a towel, shivering slightly in the evening breeze. I gestured for him to come inside. "Frank, I have to go. Tyler needs dinner." "Wait. Rebecca, please, can I come see you? Both of you? I need to make this right." I looked at Tyler, dripping pool water on our new hardwood floors, grinning because he'd just discovered the house had heated floors. My beautiful, brilliant, resilient son who deserved grandparents who loved him unconditionally. "I'll think about it," I said finally. "But Frank, if you come here, it has to be real. No more lectures about my life choices. No more treating Tyler like he's less than Amanda's kids. And definitely no more acting like you've done us some great favor by tolerating our existence." "I understand." "Do you? Because this isn't just about admitting you were wrong. This is about changing how you see us, how you treat us going forward." "I get it, Rebecca. I do." After I hung up, Tyler looked at me with curious eyes. "Was that Grandpa Frank?" "Yes." Is he sorry for being mean? He says he is. Do you believe him? I knelt down and helped him finish drying off. I want to believe him, buddy. But sometimes when people hurt us, we have to see if they really change before we trust them again. Tyler nodded solemnly. Like when Bobby at school said sorry for pushing me, but then he did it again the next day? Exactly like that. So we wait and see? We wait and see. That night, after Tyler was asleep in his new bedroom, I stood on our deck looking out at the ocean. The waves were gentle, rolling up onto our private beach in a rhythm that was already becoming familiar. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe fully. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. Rebecca, please call me. I need to understand what happened. I had no idea about any of this. Then one from Mom. Sweetheart, I'm so confused and upset. Can we please talk? And then, surprisingly, one from Frank. I know I have no right to ask, but would Tyler like to go fishing this weekend? I have a lot to make up for. I didn't respond to any of them. Not yet. Tomorrow would bring new conversations, new opportunities for my family to show me who they really were when they thought I was worthy of their respect. But tonight, I was just going to enjoy the sound of the waves and the knowledge that Tyler was sleeping peacefully in a house where no one could make him feel small. Sunday morning brought an unexpected visitor. I was making pancakes in our new kitchen, watching Tyler explore the tide pools on our beach, when I heard a car in the driveway. Through the window, I saw Mom's silver SUV pulling up next to my old Toyota. She sat in the car for several minutes before getting out, and I could see her staring at the house with obvious shock. I opened the front door before she could knock. Hi, Mom. Rebecca. Her voice was soft, uncertain. This is really yours? It really is. Come in. She followed me through the foyer into the main living area, her eyes taking in everything. The vaulted ceilings, the wall of windows facing the ocean, the furniture that probably cost more than her annual salary. But she wasn't calculating like Amanda had been. She looked sad. I can't believe you've been living like this and I never knew, she said finally. I haven't been living like this. We just moved in yesterday. Before this, Tyler and I lived in that apartment for 5 years. But why? If you could afford all this, why live in a tiny apartment? Why drive that old car? Why let us think you were struggling? I gestured for her to sit on the sectional sofa. Because I was hoping that someday you'd love me for who I am, not what I have. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Rebecca, honey, I do love you. I've always loved you. Have you, Mom? Or have you loved the idea of me? The daughter who needed your help, who made you feel useful. She was quiet for a long moment, watching Tyler through the window as he chased seagulls along the water's edge. I don't know how to answer that. I think you just did. That's not fair. You lied to us, Rebecca. For years. You're right, I did lie. But Mom, every time I accomplished something, you found a way to worry about it instead of celebrate it. When I graduated from college, you worried I was getting too big for my britches. When I started my company, you worried I was neglecting Tyler. When I got divorced, you worried I'd never find another man to take care of us. I was trying to protect you. From what? Success? Happiness? Independence? Mom wiped her eyes with a tissue from her purse. Your father and I, we never had much money. We struggled for everything. When he died, I was so scared of being alone, of not being able to provide for you. When Frank came along, he represented security, stability. And when I chose differently, it felt like I was rejecting everything you'd worked for. She nodded. I suppose it did. Tyler had spotted her through the window and was running up from the beach, sand flying from his bare feet. He burst through the sliding door with the enthusiasm only 8-year-olds can muster. Grandma, you're here. Did you see our house? It's huge, and we have our own beach. Want to see my room? Mom's face transformed when she looked at him, softening in a way I rarely saw anymore. I'd love to see your room, sweetheart. As Tyler dragged her upstairs, chattering about everything from the heated floors to the sound the waves made at night, I started lunch. By the time they came back down, Tyler had given her a complete tour and was already planning the epic sandcastle they were going to build together. Mom, can Grandma stay for lunch? I want to show her how the tide pools work. If Grandma wants to stay, she's welcome. Mom looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. I'd like that very much. As we ate grilled cheese sandwiches and watched the ocean, Mom seemed more relaxed than I'd seen her in years. Tyler kept up a steady stream of conversation, telling her about his new school, his friends, his excitement about living near the beach. And for the first time, she wasn't asking worried questions about whether he was eating enough vegetables or getting enough sleep. She was just enjoying him. After lunch, as Tyler and Mom built an elaborate sandcastle complete with a moat and seaweed flags, my phone rang. Frank's number. Hello? Rebecca, I know you said you'd think about me visiting, but I'm actually outside your gate. I brought my fishing gear in case Tyler wants to try it. I looked down at the beach where Tyler was explaining to Mom the aerodynamics of seagull flight patterns. Hold on. I walked down to them. Tyler, Grandpa Frank is here. He brought fishing gear and wants to know if you'd like to try fishing. Tyler's face lit up. Really? Can I, Mom? I looked at Mom, who was watching this exchange with interest. What do you think, Grandma? Should we let Grandpa Frank come down to the beach? I think, Mom said carefully, that Tyler deserves to have grandparents who treat him like the wonderful boy he is. 10 minutes later, Frank was standing on our deck, looking out at the ocean, his fishing gear in hand, and an expression of complete bewilderment on his face. Rebecca, this place is incredible. Thank you. How long have you owned it? Since yesterday. He stared at me. You bought a $4 million house in one day? The asking price was actually $4.2 million. I offered $4.5 to close quickly. Frank sat down heavily in one of the deck chairs. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up, and this will all have been a dream. Yesterday you were struggling to pay rent, and today you're casually buying houses worth more than I'll make in my lifetime. Yesterday you thought I was struggling to pay rent, I corrected. There's a difference. Tyler came running up from the beach, sand covering his legs and excitement radiating from every inch of his small body. Grandpa Frank, Mom said you brought fishing stuff. Can we fish right here from our beach? Frank's face underwent the same transformation I'd seen in Mom's when she looked at Tyler. The hard edges softened, the businessman mask slipped away, and for a moment he was just a grandfather looking at his grandson. We can absolutely fish from your beach, buddy. Have you ever been fishing before? No, but I've seen it on TV. You catch them and then you eat them, right? Frank laughed, genuinely laughed, and I realized I hadn't heard him do that in years. Well, first we have to catch them. That's the tricky part. As Frank showed Tyler how to bait a hook and cast a line, I watched from the deck with Mom. There was something different about Frank when he was focused on Tyler. Less bluster, more patience. Less need to be the expert, more willingness to let Tyler make mistakes and learn. He's good with him, Mom observed, when he tries to be. Rebecca, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me. I turned to look at her. Okay. Have you been supporting us financially all this time because you love us, or because you felt obligated? The question caught me off guard. I watched Tyler squeal with delight as he felt a fish tug on his line. Watched Frank help him reel it in with patient encouragement. Both, I said finally. I love you all, even when you drive me crazy. But yes, there was obligation too. A sense that family takes care of family, even when it's not appreciated. And now? Now I'm tired of being taken for granted. I'm tired of having my choices questioned and my worth measured by your standards instead of my own. Mom nodded slowly. What would it take for us to earn your trust back? I don't know yet, but Frank showing Tyler how to fish without once lecturing me about single motherhood is a good start. Down on the beach, Tyler had successfully caught and released 3 small fish. He was glowing with pride, chattering nonstop about the experience. Frank was smiling more than I'd seen him smile in years. Tyler, Frank called up to us. Do you want to show your mom and grandma the fish we caught? They're back in the water, Grandpa Frank. I know, but we took pictures. As Tyler raced up to show us the photos on Frank's phone, Frank followed more slowly. When he reached the deck, he looked directly at me. Rebecca, I owe you more than an apology. I owe you years of respect and support that I failed to give you. I don't know if I can ever make up for that, but I'd like to try. I looked at Tyler, who was showing Mom a picture of himself holding a fish almost as big as his hand, his face radiant with joy. Then I looked at Frank, who for once seemed more interested in my son's happiness than in being right about everything. Tyler had a wonderful time today, I said finally. That means a lot to me. Could we maybe do it again sometime? I know I have a lot to prove, but I'd like the chance to be the grandfather Tyler deserves. I thought about all the years of criticism, all the times he'd made Tyler feel less than his cousins, all the lectures about my failures as a mother and a woman. Then I thought about the pure joy on Tyler's face when he caught that first fish, and the patience Frank had shown him. We'll see, I said. But Frank, if you want to be part of Tyler's life going forward, some things have to change permanently. This can't be a temporary improvement because you found out I have money. I understand. Do you? Because Tyler is going to remember how you treat him now for the rest of his life. He's going to remember whether his grandfather made him feel loved and valued, or whether he made him feel like a burden. Frank glanced down at Tyler, who was now showing Mom how to hold an imaginary fishing rod. He's a special kid, isn't he? He's an incredible kid, and he deserves grandparents who see that. As the sun began to set over the Pacific, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, my family sat on my deck sharing stories and watching Tyler chase waves. For the first time in years, the conversation wasn't about what I was doing wrong or what I needed to fix. It was about Tyler's dreams of becoming a marine biologist, about Mom's garden, about Frank's plans to teach Tyler to play chess. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward moments, still old patterns trying to reassert themselves, but it was different, better, real. As they prepared to leave, Frank pulled me aside. Rebecca, I know I can't undo the damage I've done, but I want you to know that seeing Tyler today, seeing how happy and confident he is, I realize what an amazing job you've done raising him. You don't need my approval, but you have it anyway. After they left, Tyler and I sat on the beach watching the stars come out over the water. He was tired from his big day, but still buzzing with excitement about the fish he'd caught. Mom, he said, leaning against my shoulder, do you think Grandpa Frank really likes me now? I think Grandpa Frank is finally getting to know the real you, buddy. And the real you is pretty impossible not to love. Will we see him again soon? Would you like to? Yeah, he's actually pretty fun when he's not being grumpy. I laughed, hugging my son closer. People can change, Tyler. Sometimes it just takes them a while to figure out what's really important. As we walked back up to our beautiful house, Tyler chattering about all the fish he was going to catch next time. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope, not just for Tyler and me, but for all of us. Maybe it was possible to build something real with my family. Maybe it wasn't too late for second chances. 3 weeks later, Tyler burst through the front door of our Malibu house like a small hurricane, his backpack flying off his shoulders and landing somewhere near the stairs. His cheeks were flushed with excitement, and he was practically vibrating with energy. Mom, guess what happened at school today? I looked up from my laptop where I'd been reviewing contracts for a new water purification project in Kenya. Let me guess. You discovered a new species of marine life in the classroom fish tank? Better. He launched himself onto the couch next to me, his sandy hair still damp from the ocean breeze. Mrs. Patterson said we're having a family presentation day, and everyone has to bring someone from their family to talk about their job. And I want to bring you. My heart did a little flip. Tyler's enthusiasm was infectious. But the idea of standing in front of a classroom full of 8-year-olds and their parents, explaining what I did for a living, made me nervous. What kind of presentation, buddy? Everyone gets to show what makes their family special. Jake's dad is a firefighter, so he's bringing his uniform. Sophia's mom is a veterinarian, so she's bringing pictures of animals she's helped. And I want to tell everyone about how you make water clean for people who don't have good water. The pride in his voice made my throat tight. For years, I'd been worried that hiding my success was somehow diminishing Tyler's sense of self-worth. But watching him now, seeing how excited he was to share my work with his classmates, I realized he'd always known exactly who his mother was. When is this presentation day? Friday. Can you do it, Mom? Please? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Frank's name appeared on the screen, and I felt that familiar tightness in my chest. Our relationship had been slowly improving since that day on the beach, but we were still navigating carefully around years of hurt feelings and misunderstandings. Hold on, Tyler. Let me take this. I answered the phone. Hi, Frank. Rebecca, I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Not at all. Tyler just got home from school. What's up? Well, I wanted to run something by you. Patricia's boy Kevin is getting married next month, and she's planning this big family reunion barbecue afterward. She specifically asked me to make sure you and Tyler are invited. I was quiet for a moment, processing this. Aunt Patricia had always been polite but distant, more interested in Amanda's suburban success story than my unconventional life. The fact that she was specifically requesting my presence felt significant. That's unexpected. Frank's laugh was rueful. Yeah, well, word has gotten around the family about your success. Suddenly, everyone's very interested in getting to know you better. The bitter truth of that statement hung in the air between us. And what did you tell Patricia? I told her I'd ask you, but that it was entirely up to you and Tyler. I also told her that if anyone makes either of you feel unwelcome, I'll personally throw them out of the party. That was definitely new. The old Frank would have pressured me to attend for the sake of family unity, regardless of how uncomfortable it made me. You'd really do that? Rebecca, I've spent the last few weeks thinking about all the times I should have stood up for you and didn't. I'm not making that mistake again. Tyler was tugging on my sleeve, clearly wanting to know what was going on. I put my hand over the phone. Grandpa Frank is inviting us to Cousin Kevin's wedding reception. Tyler's eyes lit up. The one who's really tall and always brings the good candy to Christmas? I nodded, and Tyler immediately started bouncing on the couch. Can we go, please? I haven't seen Kevin in forever. Frank, did you hear that? I did. That boy's enthusiasm is hard to resist. All right, we'll come. But I'm bringing Tyler home the minute anyone makes him feel uncomfortable. Fair enough. And Rebecca? Thank you. I know this isn't easy for you. After I hung up, Tyler was still bouncing. This is the best day ever. A family party, and I get to tell everyone at school about your water machines. His excitement was contagious, but I felt a familiar knot of anxiety forming in my stomach. Family gatherings had always been minefields for me, filled with subtle comparisons and not so subtle judgments. But Tyler deserved to know his extended family, and maybe it was time to see if anything had really changed. Tyler, about your presentation at school, are you sure you want me to come? I could probably arrange for someone from the lab to bring some equipment and demonstrate how the filtration systems work. Tyler's face fell slightly. You don't want to come? It's not that I don't want to come, sweetheart. I just want to make sure you're comfortable. Sometimes when parents talk about having a lot of money, it can make other kids feel weird. Tyler considered this seriously, his 8-year-old mind working through the implications. But it's not about the money, Mom. It's about helping people. You made machines that give clean water to kids who are getting sick from bad water. That's like being a superhero, but with science. My heart melted completely. When did you get so wise? Probably when I turned 8. That's when all the best wisdom happens. I laughed and pulled him into a hug. All right, superhero scientist it is. I'll come to your presentation. The next few days flew by in a whirlwind of preparation. I put together a simple presentation with photos from some of our international projects. Children in Guatemala drinking clean water for the first time. Families in Bangladesh no longer having to walk miles for safe water. Communities in Kenya celebrating the installation of new filtration systems. I kept the technical details simple and focused on the human impact of the work. Friday morning arrived gray and overcast, unusual for Malibu in late summer. Tyler was practically vibrating with nervous energy as he got ready for school. What if the other kids think it's boring? He asked for the 3rd time as I braided his hair. Tyler, you're talking about giving people clean water to drink. That's not boring, that's essential. And besides, you know more about this stuff than most adults. You've been watching me work on these systems since you were tiny. That's true. I do know a lot about water molecules. I smiled at his confidence returning. You absolutely do. The presentation was scheduled for 2 o'clock, which gave me time to finish up some work before heading to Tyler's school. But as I sat at my desk, trying to focus on supply chain logistics for our newest project in Nepal, my phone kept buzzing with messages. Amanda. Mom told me you're coming to Kevin's wedding thing. Can we talk before then? I feel like we need to clear the air. Mom. Sweetheart, I'm so excited you're coming to the family gathering. I was thinking we could ride together. Even Jessica, Robert's daughter, who I rarely heard from. Hey, Rebecca. Heard you're coming to the party. Looking forward to catching up. The sudden attention from family members, who'd barely acknowledged my existence for years, felt overwhelming. I understood that learning about my financial success had shifted their perception of me. But the abrupt change in their attitude was difficult to navigate. At 1:30, I loaded my presentation materials into the car and drove to Tyler's school. Pacific Elementary was a small, welcoming place with an ocean view and teachers who genuinely cared about their students. Tyler had thrived there, making friends easily and excelling in science and reading. Mrs. Patterson greeted me warmly in the hallway. "Ms. Parker, Tyler has been talking about your visit all week. He's so proud of what you do." "He's pretty amazing himself. I hope this presentation isn't too complicated for the class." "Are you kidding? These kids are incredibly smart and curious. They're going to love hearing about real-world problem solving." The classroom was buzzing with excitement when I walked in. 22 8-year-olds and about 15 parents filled the space, everyone chattering about the various presentations they'd already seen. Tyler waved at me from his desk, his face glowing with pride. "Okay, everyone," Mrs. Patterson called out. "Our last presenter today is Tyler's mom, Ms. Parker. Tyler, would you like to introduce her?" Tyler stood up with the confidence of a seasoned public speaker. "This is my mom, Rebecca Parker. She's an inventor and scientist, and she makes machines that clean dirty water so people don't get sick. She's helped kids all over the world get clean water to drink, and I think that makes her pretty much the coolest mom ever." The class erupted in applause, and I felt my nervousness melt away. This wasn't about impressing anyone or proving my worth. This was about sharing something I was passionate about with a group of curious children. For the next 20 minutes, I showed photos and told stories about the communities we'd helped. I explained how dirty water made people sick, how our filtration systems worked, and why access to clean water was a basic human right. The kids asked thoughtful questions. How do you know if water is safe to drink? Can you make the machines in different sizes? Have you ever been to the places where you put the machines? Tyler beamed throughout the entire presentation, occasionally adding his own observations or clarifying technical points for his classmates. When it was over, several kids rushed up to ask more questions, and I found myself surrounded by 8-year-olds who wanted to know how they could become inventors too. "You just have to notice problems and then think really hard about how to solve them," I told them. "And never stop asking questions." As the school day ended and parents began picking up their children, Tyler practically floated to my car. "Mom, that was amazing. Did you see how interested everyone was? And Mrs. Patterson said she wants to arrange a field trip to your lab." "You did a wonderful job introducing me, buddy. I'm so proud of how well you explained everything. I've been paying attention all these years. I know more about water purification than most kids know about video games." As we drove home along the Pacific Coast Highway, Tyler chattering about his classmates' reactions to the presentation, I felt a sense of contentment I hadn't experienced in years. This was what I'd been missing during all those years of hiding my success. The simple joy of sharing my passion with people who mattered to me. That evening, as Tyler worked on homework at the kitchen table and I prepared dinner, my phone rang. Amanda's name on the screen. "Hi, Amanda. Rebecca, I've been thinking about our conversation at Frank's anniversary party, and I realize I never really apologized properly. I was shocked about learning about your success. But that's no excuse for how our family has treated you over the years." I stirred the pasta sauce and considered my response. "Thank you for saying that. I mean it. I keep thinking about all the times you tried to connect with us, all the family events where you were treated like the poor relation. And now I find out you were quietly helping all of us financially. I feel terrible. Amanda, I chose to help because I wanted to. But you're right that the way I was treated wasn't fair. Can we start over? I know that sounds simplistic, but I'd like to try to be the sister I should have been all along. I looked over at Tyler, who was frowning in concentration over his math worksheet. I'd like that. But it has to be real, Amanda. Tyler and I can't go back to being the charity cases at family gatherings. Never again, I promise. We talked for another 20 minutes, and for the first time in years, it felt like we were actually sisters instead of distant relatives. Amanda told me about her struggles with her marriage, her worries about her kids, her sense that she'd been coasting through life without any real purpose. I found myself sharing my own challenges. The pressure of running multiple companies, the loneliness of success, the constant worry that I was somehow failing Tyler by being a single mother. You're not failing him, Amanda said firmly. Rebecca, that kid adores you. And today at his school, seeing how proud he was to be your son? You're doing something right. After we hung up, Tyler looked up from his homework. Was that Aunt Amanda? Yes, it was. She sounded nicer than usual. I laughed. You could hear her from over there? You have a phone voice, Mom. It gets all polite and careful when you're talking to family. Smart observation, buddy. So, are things getting better with everyone? I sat down next to him at the table, helping him with a particularly tricky word problem. I think so. It's going to take time, and there might be some bumpy moments. But yes, I think things are getting better. Good. I like it when you're happy. The simplicity of his statement hit me like a wave. All these years, I'd been so focused on protecting Tyler from family drama that I hadn't realized he'd been protecting me too, in his own 8-year-old way. Tyler, you know you can talk to me about anything, right? If something bothers you, or if you're worried about something. I know, Mom. But honestly, I'm mostly just excited about stuff these days. This house, the ocean, Grandpa Frank teaching me to fish, going to Kevin's wedding party, showing everyone at school how cool my mom is. Life's pretty good right now. Looking at my son's earnest face, his homework spread out on our kitchen table with the Pacific Ocean visible through the windows behind him, I realized he was absolutely right. Life was pretty good right now. The following weekend, we drove to Aunt Patricia's house in Orange County for Kevin's wedding reception. I dressed carefully, nice enough to show respect for the occasion, but not so formal that it would draw unwanted attention to our changed financial circumstances. Tyler wore his favorite button-down shirt and his good jeans, and he'd insisted on bringing a small gift for Kevin and his new wife. Patricia's backyard had been transformed with string lights, round tables covered in white linens, and a small dance floor set up on the patio. The whole extended Harrison family was there. Cousins I hadn't seen in years, aunts and uncles who barely acknowledged me at Christmas, family friends who remembered me as Linda's troubled daughter. But something was different this time. Instead of the polite distance I was used to, people actually seemed genuinely interested in talking to me. Cousin Michelle, who'd never said more than hello to me in 20 years, spent 15 minutes asking about my work and telling me about her daughter's interest in environmental science. Uncle Robert's brother Dave, who'd always treated me like I was invisible, made a point of introducing me to his wife's business partner as the family entrepreneur. Tyler was in his element, charming relatives with his enthusiasm and ocean stories. I watched him show Kevin's new wife photos on his phone of the fish he'd caught with Grandpa Frank, explaining in detail the differences between California marine life and East Coast varieties. He's quite the little scientist, Patricia observed, appearing at my elbow with 2 glasses of wine. He gets excited about learning new things, I said, accepting the wine gratefully. Frank tells me you've been very successful with your business. There it was, the elephant in the room that everyone had been dancing around all evening. I've been fortunate. Patricia studied my face for a moment. You know, I always thought you were wasting your potential with that Danny and the struggling artist lifestyle. But Frank tells me you were building something impressive the whole time. I was trying to build a life that made sense to me. Well, it obviously worked out. And Tyler is a credit to you, Rebecca. He's confident and curious and kind. That doesn't happen by accident. The genuine warmth in her voice surprised me. Thank you, Patricia. That means a lot. As the evening progressed, I found myself actually enjoying the party. The conversations felt real instead of performative, and people seemed genuinely interested in me as a person rather than just tolerating my presence out of family obligation. Tyler danced with his cousins, helped serve cake, and regaled anyone who would listen with stories about living near the ocean. Around 9 o'clock, as the party was winding down, Frank approached me. Rebecca, could I talk to you for a minute? We walked over to a quiet corner of the yard, away from the remaining guests. What's on your mind, Frank? I wanted to thank you for coming tonight, and I wanted to tell you that watching Tyler with everyone today, seeing how happy and confident he is, it made me realize something. What's that? All these years, I thought I was protecting this family by maintaining certain standards, by pushing people to be successful in conventional ways. But you were already successful, more successful than any of us, and I was too stubborn and proud to see it. I sipped my wine and watched Tyler help Patricia's granddaughter catch fireflies in the growing darkness. Success looks different for different people, Frank. That's what I'm learning. And I'm learning that the kind of success that really matters is raising a child who's happy and confident and kind. You did that, Rebecca. Despite all my criticism and doubt, despite having to do it mostly on your own, you raised an incredible kid. We're not done yet. He's only 8. Frank smiled. True. But you've given him a solid foundation. And now, if you'll let me, I'd like to be part of helping him build on that foundation. I looked at this man who had caused me so much pain over the years, who was now genuinely trying to make amends. Frank, Tyler adores spending time with you. Those fishing trips have become the highlight of his week. But I need to know that this change in you is permanent. He can't handle having his grandfather's love depend on his mother's bank account. It doesn't. God help me, it took me too long to figure that out. But Tyler's worth has nothing to do with money. He's worth loving because he's Tyler. And you're worth respecting because you're a good mother and a good person who built something meaningful with her life. As we drove home that night, Tyler fell asleep in the passenger seat, exhausted from a day of family celebration. I drove slowly along the coast highway, thinking about how much had changed in just a few months. The family relationships that had felt impossible to repair were slowly healing. Tyler was thriving in his new school and environment. My business continued to grow and help people around the world. But most importantly, I was finally living authentically. No more hiding my success, no more pretending to be someone I wasn't. No more allowing other people's insecurities to dictate how I saw myself. When we got home, I carried Tyler upstairs to his bedroom, careful not to wake him. As I tucked him into bed, he stirred slightly. Mom? Yeah, buddy. Today was fun. I like our family better now. Me too, Tyler. Me too. As I stood in his doorway watching him sleep, listening to the waves outside his window, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in years. We'd found our way home, not just to this beautiful house by the ocean, but to ourselves, to authenticity, to relationships built on genuine love rather than conditional acceptance. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to help communities access clean water, new moments to watch Tyler grow into the remarkable person he was becoming. But tonight, everything felt exactly as it should be.